for tuning into Sim's Workshop podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Red Hood by Elana K. Arnold. This is one of those novels that I gave 5 stars to. I'm very picky with my 5-star novels. And I gave this one 5 stars because Arnold takes so many risks when she's writing. That was evident with Damsel. I don't know if any of you have read it. I highly recommend it. That one is a retelling of Sleeping Beauty. Red Hood is a modern day retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. And what I thought was so impactful, and it grabbed me from the instant, was the use of second person to tell the story. I mean, that was just incredible. I personally tend to get turned off by second person, but with Red Hood, I was immediately pulled in. I gravitated towards the story. Like, I needed to know more. I needed to know why this voice was being used in this way. And it was pretty compelling. I mean, it was an outstanding novel. And to follow Bisou, as she says, you. And I think that was very impactful because the message of the story also resonates with the Me Too movement. She rebuffs the boy, and then a wolf comes after her. Later, she finds out, the wolf was a boy. So in this novel, Arnold is really bringing out the beast in the man. She's bringing out the predator in them, because wolves are predators. Don't get me wrong, I love wolves. It saddens me that they are, they were on the verge of extinction, but they are predators. And I thought it was so compelling to see this, sort of abstract idea. We call men who attack women predators because they do attack. They do treat women like prey. But to go from, this sort of figurative meaning almost to a very literal manifestation of what it means to be a male predator was so impactful, and it was so compelling, and I absolutely loved it. There are some parts of the novel, they are a little strange, they are slightly uncomfortable, but it's because you're in the you perspective. And I think the novel is meant to make you feel uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be uncomfortable. It's very real. It's very much a feminist story about women standing up to the men and fighting back that monster. And that's pretty similar to her work in Damsel as well. So I think it's so good. I think it's absolutely amazing that Red Hood exists. And it's so profound. And it's so thoughtful. And it flows so well. The narrative, the character development, the growth, the strength, the unity of females, it grows. And I think that's probably why I loved it so much, because it's so realistic but fantastical at the same point. And I think it's a powerful novel. It sends a very powerful message to the reader with this blend of modern contemporary writing with fantastical elements, because it can lure you in and it opens your eyes and it makes you think. And a good novel is one that makes you think. And that's exactly what Elana K. Arnold does with her writing. She makes the reader think. not only that, but her writing is very fluid. It's very lyrical at times. It just moves so beautifully. I can't think of another word for it. It just moves at such a fluid and beautiful pace that it keeps the reader glued. Like, you want to know. You want to know what's going to happen next. You're so invested in the story with the use of the you and with the narrative and with the progression. And then there's a switch, and it caught me off guard. We went from using you to using the first person perspective, and I was just like so caught off guard by that. But it didn't turn me away from the story. In fact, again, it made me more curious to find out, why did she do this shift in storytelling? Why? It made me curious. And I think if a novel makes you curious to keep turning the pages, it makes you more invested in the story. And there's a lot of, backstory here. There's a lot of compelling narrative and perspective. And I think it shows a lot to women. I think this is a good read for any feminist. It's a great novel for any feminist discussion. You want to pick up this book, read it with your book club. I highly recommend it because there's so many parts that you can pick apart. There's so many scenes you can pick apart, and you can just discuss them at length for probably hours at a time, because there's a lot of symbolism, there's a lot of realism, there's a lot of important stuff going on in this novel that it should be discussed. This is a novel that you should pick up for, if you're a feminist teacher listening to this, recommend this story for your class and make it required reading. If you're in a book club, please pick up this novel, because it's important. It's an important novel, and not all the men are bad in this novel, and I think that's also really important. Not all men are predators. There are good men out there. My husband's one of them, and I'm hoping my son, when he grows up, if I raise him right, he's going to be one of those good men, and I think the fact that this novel highlights two men in two different age groups being so good and understanding of these female characters, they're not there to raise the women up, and they're sort of like Kristoff in Frozen 2, like, what do you need? They are there to help the women and follow the women and be a partner to the women without being the reason why the women are growing. And I think that's also impactful, because a lot of young adult fiction, the young girl grows in tandem with any male characters or any romantic characters, and it's nice to see a novel step away from that, to see the women come into their own on their own with just the help of other female characters, instead of using the male characters as sort of a clutch. And sorry, I had to drink my cup of coffee. And I just have to say, I love this novel. Arnold is amazing. She's such a great, passionate writer. You can see it in her style of writing. You can see it with the risks that she takes, with the way she develops the characters. And to see that passion, it fills the reader up. It filled me up with this sort of like, I mean, you can probably hear it from my voice, but it really, my son's in his crib wrestling with his blanket. But this novel fills me up with so much passion and eagerness, and I loved it. I honestly did love this novel, which is why I gave it 5 stars, because I really couldn't find fault with it. Well, that's not true. The minor thing I felt I had an issue with was just right at the beginning. Even though I do enjoy the second person, Bisu's voice, yes, it's in the you form, it fell just a little flat at times, but it's very sporadic that happens, and it wasn't enough for me to detract a star or make it a half star, because the message and the rest of the writer and her character development and the voice choice, I mean, it all made for such a compelling and powerful read that I wish I had a book club so that I could just highlight these sections that I would love to discuss. And I really do encourage anyone that is listening to this, please support your local bookstore and please pick up a copy of this novel, because it is definitely one that should be read, and it is definitely one that should be discussed. And I have to say this, Arnold, she is an amazing author. Elana K. Arnold. Pick up Damsel. Pick up this novel. She's a writer that takes risk, and any writer that does that deserves to be read. So on that note, I would like to thank you for joining me today on Sin's Workshop. Please remember to subscribe. I'm available on Spotify, Google, Apple. I'm just look up Sin's Workshop, and I appreciate you listening. Have a great day.